See?
All right. I'm Richard Rogers. I'm the Deputy Director of Engineering at Department of Technology. Up here that's going to be doing a presentation is Bryan Ralph. He's the Application Manager from FTB. And we also have Scott Metzger, who is the Managing Director at PTP. So I'm pretty excited about this program today, or this session today. Probably a lot of things that you've heard is strategic, how you go ahead and figure out where you want to go. But there's still the nuts and bolts of implementing. And you're going to run into some roadblocks as you implement projects. And so you're going to get a chance to get some lessons learned or hear some key issues, especially around people as well as security. And I could attest from my own personal experience that the things that Bryan's going to talk about, I've definitely seen. And so what we're hoping that you take away from this session today is that you recognize these on some of your projects earlier on, and you're a little bit able to be more proactive of correcting this than going down further down and derailing your projects, especially when you have projects that have hard deadlines of implementation. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and let Bryan take over.
Very good. Thank you. You guys picked a great session. Okay, this is the one to be at, so this will be entertaining. Afternoon, my name is Bryan Rao, and I've been with the Franchise Tax Board for over 20 years. And every time I say that, it freaks me out because it doesn't feel like 20 years. Last 5 years, I've been the Application Development Manager for one of California's largest IT projects, the Enterprise Data to Revenue Project, also known as EDR. And one of the major components of EDR was the enhancement of our MyFTB website. And so today I'd like to tell you a little story about our journey in creating this enhanced site. Since every journey is an experience, I'd like to share our experience with you in the hopes that it might assist you in any future endeavors that you might be involved in. So as part of our journey today, I want to discuss a couple things. I want to discuss some of the major components that we considered when we're developing our site. We're going to talk about some of the obstacles that we face when we're developing as well. And then we're going to talk about that one major lesson learned that everybody experiences, and I want to talk about our major lesson learned that we had too. Scott's going to take us through a quick tour of the site as well. We've got some screenshots so you can see what the final product turned out to be. And if we have some time, we'll take some questions at the end. Sound fair enough? Very cool. So but before I begin, I owe you guys a little background, okay? Let's start with EDR itself, the project itself. Now you can probably derive from the name, EDR, Enterprise Data to Revenue, that the project had something to do with data and revenue. Was that your guess? Point for you, you win. That was good. EDR was a 5-year IT modernization effort aimed at solving some of FTB's key business problems. So that's what we were after. In a nutshell, we were all about centralizing our data from siloed systems in order to better use our data in an enterprise manner. So with our data in a centralized location, it was then our intent to show that data in one place in order to provide staff with one complete view of a taxpayer. And thus the concept of the taxpayer folder was born. So imagine the benefits to staff, being able to take a phone call from a taxpayer and be able to go to one place to see all that information, as opposed to logging on to multiple systems to give that information back to the taxpayer. So that one place to see accounting, collection, audit information, along with any correspondence sent or received from the taxpayer, all in one spot. I'm still on that slide. And so from here, the concept of the taxpayer folder, we took that and we expanded it to include taxpayers themselves, a place where taxpayers could go to see their specific information, hence the MyFTB. So if you look at the screenshot here, if you go to ftb.ca.gov and you log on to MyFTB up here in the corner, you too can see your specific account information. Now, let's talk about some of the things that we considered when we were developing our site. One of the first things we looked at was service. We wanted folks to be able to self-serve and be able to answer their own questions using the self-service tools that we provided. In fact, the very best customer service you can provide is when the customer doesn't have to call you at all. So that's what we're after here. So we wanted to bring more services to the table. For example, we wanted to have people be able to view and print their tax returns online, be able to protest a notice of proposed assessment online, allow tax professionals to create a list of their clients online, be able to view notices, correspondence to and from FTB right there from your account, send online messages to FTB. So you see where I'm going with this? There's a lot of services here. Submit a power of attorney declaration online, and then subsequently have that power of attorney be able to receive email notifications anytime their client got a notice. So this is big deal stuff. So all this new functionality was not only beneficial to the taxpayers, but it helps FTB with its efficiencies by keeping our phone traffic down. So this is all big deal stuff. Next, we considered speed. Naturally, when you say speed and tax agency in the same sentence, you also think refund, or better yet, where's my refund? You know, that's a big deal. We definitely kept speed in mind when we were developing the MyFTB. Taxpayers want quick answers with the minimum number of clicks. That's what it boils down to. We also considered search. We wanted taxpayers to find exactly what they were looking for. But it was also to our benefit, too, that we wanted to use search as a way to continue improving our services. We wanted to find out what people were searching for so we could better understand the customers, what they wanted, the problems they were having, and just understand where they get confused. So if we knew that kind of stuff, we could help us develop our services as well. And then finally, this slide speaks for itself. Security. Everybody must consider security. Notice how this guy is overshadowed by security. It's kind of over him a little bit there. It's not that security is a scary thing or a burden. It's just a big deal. Your website needs to be secure or people aren't going to use it. It's as simple as that. So ensuring the security of our website was a major consideration for us as well. So with all those things considered, our journey began. We gathered close to 30 people throughout our department, and this team consisted of both vendor and state staff, working in partnership to achieve a similar goal. I just want to stop a second and stress the word partnership. Even though the state hired a vendor to help produce a website, it was very important to us that the state staff take ownership of the design as well, so we could ensure the utmost quality and not a situation where we're placing all the burden on the vendor. So we wanted to have some skin in the game as well. So with this team, we took our requirements, we developed use cases, which scripted out our functionality and identified the users of that functionality. From the use cases, we developed page descriptions, which summarized our page contents, and this included page mockups, page functionality, and now we're starting to roll. Our website's starting to come alive. Even though we considered service, speed, search, and security as part of our design, we still had obstacles to overcome. Don't laugh. This guy here is Pitfall Harry, and he's the main character of a video game from the early 1980s called Pitfall. Nice, Pitfall. So his main job was to navigate obstacles, jump over logs, avoid scorpions, that kind of thing. And since I played a lot of video games in my youth, I could not resist having this screenshot here because I equate it to Pitfall Harry swinging over obstacles. I equate it to our project team and how they handled obstacles. So anyone familiar with this game at all? Anyone? Yes, okay. So you notice that anytime that Pitfall Harry would grab a vine, he would make that Tarzan noise. He'd be like, oh! But it wasn't quite like that. It was very nasally. Not that that has anything to do anything, I just thought it was funny, so I just wanted to bring it up there. So with the game of Pitfall as our backdrop here, I'd like to swing through 3 of our bigger obstacles that we were faced with. The first obstacle I'd like to call same but different. Now, as I mentioned earlier, in addition to our new external website, the MyFTB, we also developed an internal site, a taxpayer folder. And this taxpayer folder allowed us to show information from our siloed systems in one place so we could get that complete view of the taxpayer. I look at it as a window into a taxpayer's account. Now, as we were going through initial design, we struggled with an actual requirement that stated that our internal folder needed to be in the same format as our external folder. Now, on the surface, that requirement seemed okay. You know, the thought process was that if I was on the phone with a taxpayer, I could see exactly what they saw in the position they saw it. So I could follow along with the taxpayer click for click. You know, that was the thought process there. The difficulty came with all the information that we wanted to show our internal staff versus the information we wanted to show to the external folks. We needed our internal staff to have a lot of information, and we needed a comfortable experience for our external folks. So as we progressed, it became apparent that we actually needed two formats, one for internal and one for external. Basically, one built for speed and the other built for comfort. Now, we ended up tweaking our requirement, and which worked out well for us, and we got two different formats for internal and external. But in the end, we were missing the ability for staff to actually view and click through their MyFTB pages as a taxpayer would. Now, we solved that. We addressed it through the help pages. We took screenshots and made them part of our help feature, and so staff could go to these help features and see what the actual taxpayer were going to see, but it wasn't quite the same, you know. So the moral to this obstacle, and you can jot this one down, be very clear with your requirements, okay? Our requirements said that we wanted our internal and external to be in the same format, but in all actuality, we wanted two different formats where staff had the ability to access data through both of them. So clarity on requirements, obstacle. The next obstacle, usability testing, okay? Let me read you some stuff about usability testing. Usability testing is often thought of as a method of finding flaws in your website, but it also reveals what works. Okay, that's good. A usability test can identify problems that annoy and discourage website users. Okay, I like that. And improving the usability of your website can help reduce customer calls, which is a big deal. I agree, big deal, I like it. All that stuff is great. So now that I've given all this love to usability testing, what was the obstacle? Well, the obstacle for us lay in the proper planning of usability testing, as we didn't have it called out specifically in our project schedule. The thing is, we were able to do some usability testing, but it was something that we had to squeeze into our schedule. And you guys, both and I know that anytime you squeeze something in, it puts stress somewhere else. And so that's what we were up against. Now, I just want to give you a quick example of what we found with usability testing and why it's such a big deal. I don't know if you guys can see this, but the picture on the forefront there is the before, and the other one's the after. So we were able to clean up our left-hand nav and our top menu through usability testing. So you can see we took all those items that were on the left-hand side, and we're able to shrink them up and actually incorporate them into our top menu. So this is helping us keep our website very usable and stuff like that. And we found this through usability testing. So another one, moral to this obstacle, you know, working out page descriptions on whiteboard is one thing, but when you're actually clicking through it, that's another. That's where you're going to find this kind of stuff, and usability testing is something you can use to do that. In hindsight, this testing is very, very important, and we needed to have it specifically called out in our schedule, and we didn't. Because if we did, I think we'd have caught more usability things than we did originally. So, and this is stuff you want to clear before you go live with any website. My final obstacle here is security. And now, I know what you guys are saying. You're saying, hey, Brian, I thought you guys already considered security when you were designing this thing. You know, why was it an obstacle? Well, that's a great question. Thank you for asking that question. I appreciate that. Our plan release for MyFTB was September of 2015. And that's until we started processing the details around a news story that hit May of 2015. Anybody want to guess what that news story was? The IRS got hacked, okay? The IRS got hacked, and you can imagine that gave us a moment of pause. You know, everybody's like, let me read you some headlines, see if they sound familiar to you. IRS hacked, 100,000 tax accounts breached, USA Today. Hacking of tax returns more extensive than first reported, New York Times, read all about it. Criminals use IRS website that steals data on under 104,000 people, CNN. That's very scary stuff, right? And these headlines certainly got our attention. Now, this breach was targeted at IRS's Get Transcript application, which is basically a way for you to get tax return information, which is exactly the kind of information we were going to show on our side by making tax returns available online. The IRS stated that this was a sophisticated effort where a third party succeeded in clearing a multi-step process to gain access. Meaning these guys already had taxpayer information, the same information that we thought was privileged only to the taxpayer, such as social security's date of birth, addresses, that kind of thing. So what do? You know, we're at a crossroad. What do you do with this information? Do you continue business as usual? Go live in September? I mean, we didn't get hacked, so should we just continue down that path? Or do you make some changes and adapt to the situation based upon that new information? Anyone? Kathy, what did we do? Yeah, we made some changes. Yes, I know the suspense was like floating here, but yes, we did make some changes. We had to assume that the taxpayer data was already out there, and we needed to get another piece of information only known to the taxpayer before granting them access to their tax information. So we did the following. We pushed out our go live date to January 2016. We stopped any new access requests to our existing online information. We introduced a personal identification number, a PIN number, to be mailed to the taxpayer to complete the registration process. And 4, we required everybody to re-register starting in January with that new PIN. Now, I tell you this story not to poke at the IRS or anything like that, but to drive home the point that security landscape is ever evolving. The bad guys are always trying new schemes, and we must accept that that's the world we live in and remain flexible. Moral to this obstacle, you can write this one down. Expect any unforeseen security changes. Because in hindsight, we weren't expecting any unforeseen security changes, but we were flexible. We had to push out our go live date. And for the most part, our executives and overseers, they were understanding with that. Because through our eyes, when it comes to delivering on time versus security, security is going to win out every time. And then on January 4th of this year, we launched. And you know what? That evening, I went home and I put my taxpayer hat on because I'm a taxpayer too. And I registered for my account. And you know what? In 7 days, I got my PIN letter and or PIN number, and I logged on, which was very satisfying to go through this whole process and then see the fruits of the labor. So now that we launched my FTB, what was that one big thing that we learned? Okay, this one is so important to me. I put it in lights, and here's the marquee. Trust your design. Trust the people that you choose to make design decisions, and don't just second guess those decisions, and only let actual data or feedback be the driver of design changes, as opposed to making snap decisions based upon people's opinion. Now, check this out. We went through extensive design sessions, and we put together great mock-ups, and with those extensive design sessions, we had extensive review sessions where we would send that out to the entire group, they would review it, it would go back to the vendor, they would clear our comments, and then we'd go back to the folks that were reviewing to make sure that those comments were good. It was like a 25-day process that we went for each of our artifacts and stuff like that. So we went through an extensive process. So at the end of the day, when we signed off on that design, it was pretty secure. So I felt very comfortable with that. But during this time, we also developed this hi-fi environment. So we could start showing the department what MyFTB was going to look like, start building some excitement on MyFTB. In doing so, we fell into something. Everybody knows what this is, right? Everybody? No? Okay. This is a Hippo Trap. Hippo, highest paid person's opinion. And the guy on the right is Admiral Akbar. He's a character from the Star Wars universe. You know this guy, right? He's famous for calling out, "It's a trap! It's a trap!" When the rebels were going to blow up the second Death Star, he noticed that the shields were still up, and so he called back the attack. And he's famous for calling out, "It's a trap! Hippo Trap." Falling into the trap of that highest paid person's opinion trap. Now, let me explain. As we began showing MyFTB to the department, I started getting requests for changes based upon opinions. We started to trust our guts rather than the data, because we didn't have any data. We weren't live yet, so there was no data to back up any decisions we had. So the requests sounded stuff like this. Sounded like this. I feel we should change this word to this. I think we should move this button there. Wouldn't it be great to add this new functionality? Now, for all those listening closely, I know you guys are too, you didn't hear any data backing up any of those requests or anything like that. It was just kind of opinion, people's thoughts on the matter. Now, the funny thing is I personally didn't realize I was in a trap. When you get into a group setting and somebody suggests something and everybody's head starts nodding, yeah, that's a great idea, let's do that, let's do that. I actually felt I was getting buy-off, so I felt good about it. But in all actuality, I was putting forth change requests and putting stress on our SDLC by maxing out our testing. So much to the point where we had to cut it off that we couldn't do any more changes after the design. It got like that, so it's a big deal. And the funny thing is not to say that these changes being requested were bad ideas. They all could have been great ideas. But we should have waited until we had concrete data before we started changing upon our agreed upon design. So bottom line, trust your design until such time you have data to back up your changes, because until that time, it's just a guess or an opinion. So at this time, I'd like to bring up my bud, Scott Metzger here, and he's from Performance Technology Partners, PTP. PTP was one of the sub-vendors that helped us out with the EDR project, and they were specifically focused on the MyFTB portion of it. Scott's going to talk about three things. Obviously, he's going to talk about another Pitfall Harry obstacle here, and this one that really stuck out in his mind. He's going to walk us through some of the MyFTB screenshots so you guys can see how the actual product turned out. And then he's going to talk about some of the results that we've been experiencing since we've been going live for 5 months. Scott, it's yours, man.
All right, well, that's going to be hard to follow, but I'll do my best. Anyways, yeah, another pitfall or obstacle we hit was real-time versus near-time. When we built the website, and EDR was all about consolidating the data into a central repository, our intent from the beginning was to use the new repository for all of the new website functionality. So when we started looking at building our services, we were thinking we would go to the EDR repository, but as we got into it, what we noticed was some of the details that were in some of the source systems weren't converted yet. It wasn't there yet because EDR 1 didn't go as far as you might have liked, or we didn't consider that data for the website earlier on. So we got into this obstacle where we had to figure out, did we want real-time data or near-time? So if we converted more data, then we would be moving the EDR repository forward, which would be good. But yet on the other hand, if we had some real-time and some near-time, that could confuse the taxpayer as they get online. For example, your balance might be current, but the payment page might be day off, so they won't see the payments, or some other page might not have accurate data. So what we decided was, and the decision we made was, you either got to have all real-time or you got to have all near-time, because they got to match. So the balance and the payments and all the things should match. But FTB and the meetings we had, we said, for websites and the expectations of our constituents, they really need real-time. So what we did was we went ahead and we modified some of our services and we built some new ones, and we leveraged some existing legacy services to provide that real-time data. So as you'll see as we go through the website, the balance they see is current. We go to the source system, we calculate their balance, and that's the balance that they would see, or when they call in, it would be the same. So that's how we approached it. So the lesson here is you need to think about this as you do these modernization projects and you centralize your data. You need to think about this, whether it's going to be near time, and that's okay, or you really need real time, and then you may need to do different things earlier in the project to make sure that data is available when you need it, or so on. So that's kind of that. So that's that obstacle. So now I want to kind of show you the finished product, if you will. You got the pointer?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll just walk you through a few things. We have, when you log in, when the taxpayer, and this is a taxpayer's view of the site, we have a CAL file here, which is just for individuals, so they can easily go in and file their taxes. We have the web pay over here, which is for both individuals and business, and they can go and do a payment. Then we have here, I don't know if you can see that, it's kind of secure chat. So within the context of your, what we call folder, you could do an authenticated chat and talk to an agent at FTB and be able to talk about real tax, your balance and real tax information. You don't have to talk about generalities, which is what you had to do prior to the MyFTB going live. So that's a good feature. We also added a send secure message, which allowed the taxpayer to upload correspondence, which previously, before the website, they'd have to send in paper. The paper would have to be routed around. Obviously, you know that takes time. It's more time consuming. Now you can put much better SLAs on that, on the information communication coming in, and they also can see that communication on the website. The top is important. We put the name because we want to make sure they always know they're in the context of the right account. We also, when the tax professionals are viewing an individual or business account, we tell them their name and in the context of what taxpayer they are. So it's important that they always, and if something's wrong, then they could give us a call, and we have to look into the account. We've also put a lot of things in place to make sure that you're able to see the data. When you centralize data, you have the possibility of having multiple accounting records and different things that you're not sure if they're linked or not. So we have protections in place on the site that if those conditions are hit, it's like, let's say maybe the account's under investigation, there's identity theft or different things, or we don't know exactly who you are in our accounting system, we give them a number to call. So that can go to someone at FTB to fix that account so they can get in. But we don't want them to see that data because for security reasons and disclosure, we can't let them in that account because we're not sure that that's their information. Okay. The other thing we do is when you log into your account, we have certain alerts that we show you. Whether we've sent you correspondence or you have a notice that needs to be viewed, whether you need to make a payment, and various things will pop up in that alert. So when they log in, they see that. We also have your contact information, and the idea was so that you could look at it and make sure it was up to date, and if not, we have a quick link to go update it. And we'll talk about what's on the contact pages a little bit later. We have your account status where you see a real-time balance and some other information about your account. And then, of course, important, you see when you last logged in. We did this again so that they could see, yes, that was me, I logged in. If not, call FTB so that we have the ability to deactivate anyone's account so we can block it until we can investigate what's going on. So it's important. So we have a lot of things kind of built into here for security. On the communications, I'm sure it's hard for you guys to see, but basically there's a notice and correspondence page, and then there's secure chat and send message, just another way to get to those icons that are over here. The notice and correspondence page shows correspondence and messages that have been sent from the taxpayer and things that have been sent from FTB. So it's a really good way that they can see all the correspondence that's been sent. Not everything's available on the website. Certain things the business has designated as not being viewable externally, but a lot of things are. So it's a very good feature, and as you'll see later, it should significantly reduce phone calls on a lot of cases, things they can look at, where the communication can happen between the FTB agent and the taxpayer. Our last tab is you can update contact information, and you can manage your security ID and password and different things about that. So we have those links. And the other thing is we have an authorization page which shows you who has access to your account. So if you've provided access to a tax professional, you'll see that relationship. Or if you provided a POA, you'll see that relationship there as well. And you have the ability to revoke it. So they have a lot of power on the site here to manage who can access their account. We've also put many things in place to notify the taxpayer. So when a tax professional adds you as a client, the taxpayer gets notified with a letter to their house that says that you've been added by XYZ tax professional. It gives them time to respond, and it also allows them to create an account and they can revoke that access. So we have things in place to protect access, and we're always notifying the taxpayer or the power of attorneys as things happen on your account so that you know what's happening. And as part of the contact page, which we'll talk about a little bit later, you have the ability to set preferences. So we can send you an SMS text message, or we can email you, not just send you a notice, because those obviously take longer to get to your house. So the results.
The results are in.
So we've only been live since January, but since then, since this tax season, we've had over 5.4 million visits. So we've had a lot of traffic. We processed 66.9 million transactions. So that's a lot. The good news is our average response time is sub-second, 1.3 milliseconds on average. We only have one page that exceeds that, and we're currently working on that, and that has to do with the tax professional pages and their ability to view notices. So, but other than that, the site is running great. So we're really pleased with that. We've also had significant benefits in the business processes and services that are provided to the taxpayer. For example, we've had 14,000 chats. Okay, so the nice thing about the new site is you can talk about your account. So you don't have to, wait on the phone a lot of times, because a lot of the calls prior to MyFTB, they can't answer them all, right? And if it's just a simple question that they can get answered real quick on the website, or now we have so much more information, they could probably just go to a page and get it. So that's key. On the sending correspondence, we had over 7,000 correspondence sent. So that saves a lot of time, right? That would be paper coming in that has to be shuffled around. So now that can go into create a case in the back office, and they can work that case in order to get back to the taxpayer quicker. The other thing that this really helps is the old MyFTB did not provide tax returns, so you couldn't view an image of a prior tax return. Now you can go online and view a prior year tax return, so if you needed to file this year, and prior to the new MyFTB, you'd have to pay $20 and wait for that image to be sent to you. So now it's much quicker, much better. And also the amount of information we give allows them to prepare their taxes and be much more accurate than they could be in past years with the data we have. So that's some of the results. And with that, I'll pass it back to Bryan.
Just flip the next slide real quick. So in closing, is it time to relax yet? Not really. Now that we're up and running, we continue to review feedback and look for opportunities to improve our user experience and mature our site. During this initial new period and stuff, we did a couple things. One of the things we found extremely important is keeping our executives on the same page, and in regards to status and issues associated with our site. So we're currently maintaining a SharePoint site that monitors all aspects of our website, from system statuses to issues to possible enhancements. It's one spot where everybody can get the same message, so we found that very powerful. In addition, our management team meets twice a week to evaluate and resolve specific MyFTB issues. I'm going to retread that because 3 months ago that was true. Now we're only at once a week, so we're doing okay now. We don't have as many problems, so we're only at once a week. But we want to be attentive to people's feedback. So the feedback that we're getting from staff on the phone, we want to make sure that we're on top of that type of stuff. So with that, I want to thank you guys for your time. And whether you're swinging over obstacles like Pitfall Harry or you're calling out it's a trap like Admiral Akbar, I hope you found our journey insightful, and thank you. Appreciate it. So I think we have like a couple seconds left. We can answer some questions. I also do have a leave behind. It's basically a handout of the lessons learned, so I have them all listed. So if you want to take that, I got about 50 copies, so whoever wants to go come and grab them, I'll leave them up here in the corner. Just like that, huh?
So a couple of things on here that I've noted. There was 3 key things, but not getting into the technology that I took away from it. Usability, whenever you do an application, it's hard to create an application that's going to meet every customer or user's needs, right? So the usability testing is huge. Making sure that you have enough time to deal with that, as well as dealing with the customers, managing executive management and customers' scope creep. That's always been a difficult thing that I've noticed whenever I did programs. They always want to go, hey, what if we do this one thing, add this to the scope. The last thing is that if you have a project long enough, if it's over a year, usually something is going to go in the way, either security. I remember doing a project that was 2.5 years old, and Y2K got in the way, and where we had to suspend it and deal with, making sure the application was compliant. So how do you guys believe that we could have did, or this project could have did a better job of managing the opinion type of feedback?
Let me take that one. So, and I think there's a power in a group. When you get a group together and they're all nodding for this change, that it's a great idea. One of the things we probably could have done is said, hey, you know what? Thank you. That's a great idea. Let's go ahead and take that offline, and let me work out some of the requirements to see what that would look like in our schedule and stuff like that. kill it right there, take it away, take the power away from the group as far as the head nod, like, hey, this needs to go forward. So if you can squelch it right there, then I can come back to you and say, hey, you know what, we're pretty packed here. I don't think we're going to get this one. I don't know if the benefits are going to outweigh, the time it's going to take us to do that type of stuff. So that's kind of what I've gathered from it. I mean, I lived it, so it wasn't something that I had on the tip of my tongue when I was doing it. But now in hindsight, I've kind of looked back, and that was probably something I could have stopped right there on the spot.
Any questions out there for the team? Anything like this that you see in your own projects? Yes.
I actually have a bunch of questions, so if you're going to be around.
Let's do it. Rock and roll.
Just one quick comment on that, as in terms of putting the stop to scope creep. I found in previous work something that's really helpful if you have this available to you is making sure that whenever you're in a meeting like that, the vision, if you think about it in terms of product, that the vision is visible to everyone, and if somebody has an idea, going back to the vision and the group.
It is very helpful,
how
yeah.
that supports the vision. But my main question out of the many, you mentioned at the top of this, all of the different civic services that are available through this website. It might be too early to know this yet, but have you found that this portal is inspiring new lines of business from FTB?
I could say, honestly, it's nervous to FTB because we are opening new channels of business and stuff like that. So I think that that's kind of one of the main hurdles is internally figuring out how we're going to handle this, because it's slowly catching on and stuff like that. It hasn't taken fire. We don't get a bunch of people going online sending us a bunch of messages. It's still the paper route and everything like that. But our hope is that we start quelching that and we start going the online route. And I think our business will change where we're going to start focusing our time and energy just to online stuff. And if you do send us paper or something like that, that's something that's going to take a back seat and we'll get to it. But if you want to communicate to us electronically, we're going to be right on it type of thing.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
How did FTB measure success with this project? I can tell you from EDD, it was, if we weren't in a paper, that was success.
I'll take that one again. I mean, we didn't miss any of our deadlines, okay? And the one thing that's shining through is we met our revenue targets. We blew our revenue targets out of the, we blew them out of the water. So if you want a success measurement, that was the whole rationale behind doing this project is the revenue, and we nailed it, so.
There's a question right there.
Is there a possibility of putting a security blanket around the information if you know you'll never want to receive that PIN and never want to have that information given to you that way?
You want to get that one?
If it's not present now, will you consider it as a change?
So are you asking, would you want to be able to call in or do something to just not allow online access to your account? Is that what you're saying?
Sort of like a credit freeze, which I do have. It ensures that people can't take loans out with your information because they got access to it.
We have that. If you call FTB, there's a flag they can put on the internal folder and they'll shut off your online access.
Yes, back.
What technology you used?
The question was, what technology did we use?
This was written with JE6, and we used the Prime Faces component library.
Another question? Yes.
I did have one going back to performance. You mentioned project revenue, or I guess revenue. Did you guys get together with the program areas or the business owners to determine KPIs for just organizational KPIs that would be the outcome of this? For example, I imagine it's really changed the topography of your call center. Like, did you guys factor any of that into the development of this and the management of that project?
Before we even go ahead.
I just wanted to repeat the question.
Restate it. That's
So the question was, did we work with our customers for KPIs?
So before we even got this project off the ground, we did an extensive business problem analysis where we went to all the business areas and we kind of laid out, what are FTB's key business problems? We got everybody nodding, yes, that's our key business problems, and this is what we want to solve with the project. So we kind of went through all that type of stuff and then we put that together. So yes, we did do that.
Any other questions?
So how did you promote this to the outside FTB?
So the question was, how did we promote this to our external customers?
Julie, you want to answer that? Because you are our promotion.
Julie from FTV. We had a lot of
So, but we're starting to hit it harder now. To get, I mean, you saw we have a booth over there that kind of shows you the benefits of MyFTB. It wasn't a loud bang parade when we first went live. I mean, we wanted to see how people were going to use it. But now that things are up and going and the wheels are greased and stuff, we're starting to hit it a lot harder.
And just from another department's perspective, some departments actually have a marketing team that goes out and markets it way before the solution is going to come out, so they can get a heads up, keep them in a loop as you get closer, and then really market hard, when you actually want to make it official. Sometimes you can have a pilot phase where, people luck upon this solution. You're not really marketing it. That way you get your test bed. And then, once you feel confident that, hey, you want to now make it available for everybody because you know that the solution is going to work, then you go ahead and do a mass marketing. So there's all kinds of different approaches for that.
How are you integrating this system with the outside agency, maybe right now or future? Let's say like an audit and investigation purpose. If anybody wants to refer the FTP database, are you going to do the linkage?
I don't
So is the question about how we are exchanging data with other departments and agencies?
Well, we haven't started that.
So I guess we're not exchanging data.
We have it, not through the website yet.
Not through the website, yeah.
So Bryan, I think you already exchanged some data, such as the EDD best addresses.
But we're not exchanging it through the website and stuff. We do a lot of data exchanges. We do a lot of data matching. We use data 24/7 for collection cases, all that kind of stuff. But nothing basically through the website. It's all back end type of matching type of thing. Do I hear my drink keep on calling me?
Well, again, for Bryan and Scott, I want to thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Good job, Bryan.